Nice wee intro there from the Scottish pipe bands and drums on the subject of the rowan tree, playing a beautiful tune there for an intro to our podcast. We are thinking today in our episode number 2, about how do we know what God is like. And it's a very interesting question. If there is a God, how can we know him? Let me ask a question. If every citizen in the United States of America, that's 332 million, if you were to ask every citizen who Robert Robb is, does Robert Robb exist? What is Robert Robb like? You would get, I'm sure, many different answers. You would have those who maybe don't believe that there is such a person as Pastor Robb. You would get others who do believe that Pastor Robb exists. And they might say, well, I think that he's a kind, loving, generous person, someone who is totally accepting of all people, all races. He's all for total equality, regardless of the colour of your skin, where you come from, or anything like that. Others, however, might suggest that Pastor Robb is harsh, he's demanding, he's vindictive. Maybe they might say he's a racist. He's pro-white, anti-black. They might say that he's a woman hater. At the end of the day, those are only personal opinions from those people. They don't necessarily equate to reality. They can be either totally wrong or maybe partially right in some places, insofar as who I am. How can any of them ever really know me, really? Well, if I were to tell people truthfully what I'm like, describe myself, tell you what I want you to know about me, and if I were to publish that so that it was made available for people to read, put it onto something like Google, and people could go to it and read it, then they would have some idea of who Robert Robb is. Whether or not they choose to believe what I have revealed about myself ultimately is up to them. But the fact is, this is me. Your opinion does not change who I am. And it's very similar with God. The only way that we can really know who God is, the only way we can really know if God exists and what God is like, is if God reveals himself to us. Otherwise, all we have are individual people's opinions. God has revealed himself to this world. He's revealed himself in world history, breaking into it, having dealings with individuals, showing them what he is like, telling them what he's like. People like Noah and Abraham and Moses and King David. Then on top of that, he also has revealed himself in the world around us. The very world we live in, the very universe in which we exist, has God's fingerprints all over it for those who want to see them. But even more than that, at a specific point in history, somewhere around 2,000 odd years ago, God broke into our world in the person of his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, or he came into our world in the person of his Son, the Lord Jesus Christ, And Jesus revealed to us God in a way that he had not been revealed before. He gave us the ultimate revelation of who God is and what God is like. Not necessarily everything about God, because at the end of the day, how can our finite minds ever understand an infinite being? But God has revealed himself, giving to us the knowledge of himself that we need in order for our relationship to be with him what it ought to be. Now, again, whether or not we choose to believe God's self-revelation does not change either the fact of his being or what he is like. Anything different that we believe about God or the God that we believe in is merely a distortion of who God is, and thus it is not God at all. So if we want to learn what God is like, we have to go to the Bible. Yes, the world around us can tell us some things about God. It certainly tells us he's amazingly powerful. It shows us he's got amazing wisdom in the diversity and the intricacy of the world in which we live. It shows he's loving and compassionate in that he provides for the people and the creatures that he has made. But there are many other aspects of God that we cannot know of simply by looking at the world around us. We have to go to the description that God gives of himself, and we find that in the Bible. And in our next episode, we're going to look at some of the character traits of God, what are commonly known as God's attributes, things that God has revealed concerning himself to us. We find those in the Bible. I hope you'll tune in to our next short broadcast. God bless.